the Galactic Council chambers were in an uproar. Diplomats from across the known systems shouted and argued, their alien features twisted in outrage. At the center of the commotion sat the representatives from the Thraxan Imperium, their saurian faces impassive as they weathered the verbal assault. "You dare desecrate the sanctity of a sentient species," bellowed the Arcturan ambassador, his tentacles lashing. "To feed a human child to your foul beast is an act of barbarity beyond comprehension." The Thraxan envoy Grathkel raised a clawed hand, his reptilian eyes narrowing. The human was a criminal, condemned by our justice system. His fate was to serve the great devourer, as is our custom. Shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. The Arcturan representative recoiled, his gelatinous body quivering. "A child? A mere infant?" he stammered. How could you?" Grathkal's lips curled in a sneer. "The human was of no consequence. It is only a mammalian species after all. Its life was forfeit the moment it committed its crime." Absolute silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the faint sound of breathing. Then a new voice spoke, calm and measured. "You know not what you have done, Thraxans." All eyes turned to the far end of the hall, where a tall bipedal figure stood. Its features were obscured by the shadows, but an aura of power and authority radiated from it. Grathkal stiffened, a flicker of unease crossing his face. "Who dares to challenge the Thraxan Imperium?" The figure stepped forward, revealing the face of a human. But this was no ordinary human. Their eyes blazed with an intensity that sent a chill down the spines of the alien diplomats. "I am Jonathan Vega, representative of the Terran Confederacy." The human's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. "And I am here to tell you that you have unleashed a force beyond your comprehension." Grathkal snorted, but there was a trace of uncertainty in his tone. "The Thraxans fear no one human. Your kind are mere primitives, incapable of—" He never finished his sentence. In a blur of motion, Jonathan Vega crossed the distance between them, his hand closing around the Thraxan's throat. Grathkal's eyes widened in terror as he was lifted off the ground, his claws scrabbling uselessly at the human's iron grip. "You fool," Vega growled, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have tasted the wrath of humanity, and it will be your undoing." The other diplomats watched in stunned silence as the human effortlessly tossed the Thraxan ambassador aside, his body crashing to the floor with a sickening thud. Vega turned to face the gathered aliens, his expression grim. "Hear me, denizens of the galaxy. This act of barbarism will not go unanswered. The Terran Confederacy will not stand idly by while you defile the sanctity of our kind." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the chamber. "From this day forward, you will know the true power of humanity. We are no longer the docile creatures you have long dismissed. We are the masters of our own destiny, and we will not be trifled with." The diplomats sat in stunned silence, their minds reeling from the display of raw power. Vega's lips curved into a humorless smile. "The age of human subjugation is over. The age of human dominance has begun." And with those words, he turned and strode from the chamber, leaving the alien representatives to contemplate the implications of his dire warning. News of the incident in the Galactic Council chambers spread like wildfire through the interstellar community. Across the galaxy, alien races reeled in the wake of Vega's proclamation, their centuries-old assumptions about the human species shattered. The Thraxans, in particular, found themselves the target of widespread condemnation and scrutiny. Their brutal treatment of the human child had been the catalyst for Vega's dramatic intervention, and the ramifications were far-reaching. Within the Thraxan Imperium, tensions ran high. The ruling caste, once secure in their power, now found themselves beset by internal unrest and dissent. Whispers of rebellion echoed through the streets of their capital as the common citizens grappled with the realization that their leaders had awakened a sleeping giant. Grathkal, the disgraced ambassador, had been summarily executed for his role in the incident, but his death did little to quell the growing uncertainty within the Imperium. The Thraxan military, once the pride of the galaxy, now found itself on the defensive, bracing for the inevitable retaliation from the Terran Confederacy. Across the stars, other alien civilizations watched and waited, their own ambitions and alliances in flux. The human representatives, once seen as weak and inconsequential, were now the focus of intense scrutiny and speculation. What would the Terrans do? How would they wield their newfound power? And what price would the galaxy pay for the Thraxans' deadly miscalculation? In the opulent capital city of the Thraxan Imperium, a lone figure made its way through the bustling streets, its reptilian features hidden beneath a hooded cloak. This was Crathnal, a member of the Imperium's ruling caste, and he was a man on a mission. As he navigated the winding alleyways, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The once vibrant city had taken on a palpable air of tension, with citizens casting furtive glances over their shoulders as if expecting attack at any moment. Crathnal quickened his pace, his mind racing with 1,000 questions. How had it all gone so wrong? The Thraxans were the undisputed masters of the galaxy, their military might and technological superiority unmatched. And yet, a single human had shattered their confidence with a mere display of strength. He reached his destination, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Slipping inside, he found himself face to face with a group of Thraxan insurgents, their eyes blazing with a newfound determination. Crathnal. One of them, a grizzled veteran named Tharkal, stepped forward. "We've been expecting you." Crathnal nodded, his expression grim. "The Imperium is in chaos. Our leaders are blind to the threat that the humans pose." Tharkal's lips curled in a humorless smile. "Then it is time for us to take matters into our own claws. The Thraxan way of life is at stake, and we will not go down without a fight." The other insurgents murmured their assent, their scales gleaming in the dim light. Crathnal surveyed them, a sense of resolve hardening within him. "So be it," he said, his voice low but firm. "We will strike at the heart of the Terran Confederacy and show them the true power of the Thraxan Imperium." The insurgents erupted into a chorus of savage war cries, their tails lashing the air in anticipation. Crathnal's eyes narrowed, his mind already whirring with a plan to bring the humans to their knees. In the bustling streets of Vega City, the capital of the Terran Confederacy, the mood was one of uneasy anticipation. The news of the Thraxan atrocity had spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of outrage and determination among the human populace. Jonathan Vega, the hero of the Galactic Council chambers, had become an overnight icon, his bold defiance of the alien overlords resonating with the masses. Crowds gathered in the city's plazas, chanting his name and demanding swift retribution against the Thraxans. Vega, however, remained steadfast in his resolve. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, fraught with peril and uncertainty. The Thraxans were a formidable foe, their military might and technological superiority well documented. To defeat them would require a level of coordination and strategic thinking that the Terrans had yet to fully master. But Vega was undaunted. He had seen the true power of humanity, the boundless potential that lay dormant within his species, and he was determined to unleash that power, to show the galaxy that the days of human subjugation were over. As he stood on the balcony of his office, overlooking the bustling city, Vega's eyes narrowed. He could sense the stirrings of a storm on the horizon, a gathering of dark clouds that promised a reckoning unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. "The Thraxans will pay for their arrogance," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the din of the crowd below. "And we will show them the true meaning of human dominance." He turned and strode back into his office, his mind already whirring with plans and strategies. The die had been cast and the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. In the depths of the Thraxan Imperium, the insurgents' preparations were well underway. Crathnal and his cohorts had been working tirelessly, gathering intelligence, acquiring weapons, and building a network of sympathizers within the military and the ruling caste. Their ultimate goal was to strike a devastating blow against the Terran Confederacy, shattering the humans' newfound confidence and restoring the Thraxans' dominance in the galaxy. But they knew that such a feat would require meticulous planning and the cooperation of like-minded factions within the Imperium. As Crathnal pored over the intelligence reports, his scaled brow furrowed in concentration. The Terrans were a formidable foe, their military capabilities and technological prowess far exceeding the Thraxans' initial assessments. To defeat them, they would need to employ every trick in their arsenal, from subterfuge and espionage to outright military might. The humans will not know what hit them, Tharkal muttered, his claws drumming against the table. We will strike swiftly and with overwhelming force, reducing their vaunted capital to ash. Crathnal nodded, his eyes narrowing. Yes, but we must be careful. The humans are not to be underestimated. One wrong move and we could be dooming the entire Imperium to destruction. The other insurgents murmured their agreement, their expressions grim. They knew that the stakes were higher than ever before, and that failure was not an option. As the meeting drew to a close, Crathnal rose from his chair, his claws clasping the edge of the table. The time has come, my friends. We will strike at the heart of the Terran Confederacy and reclaim our rightful place as the masters of the galaxy. The insurgents erupted into a chorus of savage war cries, their tails lashing the air in anticipation. Crathnal's lips curled into a predatory smile, his eyes gleaming with a newfound resolve. The battle for the fate of the galaxy had begun. Tension hung thick in the air as the Terran Confederacy's military commanders gathered in the war room, their faces grim with the weight of the impending conflict. Jonathan Vega stood at the head of the table, his expression unreadable as he surveyed the assembled officers. Gentlemen, we have received intelligence that the Thraxans are preparing a massive offensive against our homeworld. A murmur of concern rippled through the room, and Vega raised a hand to silence them. I know the gravity of the situation, but I have faith in our abilities. We have the technological edge, the strategic advantage, and the unwavering determination of our people. General Mikhail Sokolov, a grizzled veteran of countless interstellar battles, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. The Thraxans are not to be underestimated, Vega. Their military might is formidable and they will stop at nothing to regain their dominance. Vega nodded, his expression grave. That is precisely why we must be prepared to meet them head-on. We will not cower in the face of their aggression. We will stand and fight and we will emerge victorious. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, their brows furrowed with the weight of the task ahead. Vega's gaze swept across the room, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. Gentlemen, the fate of our species and indeed the entire galaxy rests upon our shoulders. We must be uncompromising in our resolve, unwavering in our commitment to the cause of human supremacy. He paused, his lips curving into a grim smile. The Thraxans have awakened a sleeping giant, and now they will face the full fury of humanity. The officers erupted into a chorus of cheers and battle cries, their spirits buoyed by Vega's impassioned words. As they began to strategize and coordinate their forces, a sense of purpose and determination filled the room, a shared resolve to vanquish the alien threat and secure humanity's rightful place among the stars. The Thraxan invasion fleet emerged from the void, a massive armada of sleek, angular warships bristling with deadly firepower. At their head was the flagship of the Imperium, a towering behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Terran vessels. Crathnal stood on the bridge, his scaled features twisted in a triumphant grin. The time has come, he said, his voice resonating with a savage confidence. We will crush the human infestation and restore the true order of the galaxy. The other officers nodded in agreement, their eyes gleaming with a hunger for battle. Crathnal turned to the communications officer, his claws drumming impatiently against the console. Hail the Terran capital, let them hear our ultimatum. The officer's fingers danced across the controls, and a holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Jonathan Vega. Thraxan invaders! Vega's voice boomed, his tone laced with a barely contained fury. You have trespassed upon the sovereign territory of the Terran Confederacy. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face the full might of our military. Crathnal's lips curled in a sneer. Your words mean nothing, human. We have come to reclaim what is rightfully ours, and we will not be deterred by your pathetic threats. Vega's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Crathnal felt a chill run down his spine. So be it, the human said, his voice low and dangerous. You have chosen your fate. Prepare to be annihilated. The transmission cut off, and Crathnal turned to his officers, his expression triumphant. Activate all weapon systems, he commanded. We will show these humans the true power of the Thraxan Imperium. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as the Thraxan fleet readied itself for the impending battle. Krathanol stood at the center of it all, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the Terran capital stood as a beacon of defiance. "This is our moment of glory," he murmured, his claws flexing in anticipation. "The age of human dominance is about to come to a bitter end." The Terran defense fleet surged forth, its ships sleek and powerful, their weapons systems primed and ready. At their head was the flagship of the Confederacy, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the mightiest of the Thraxan warships. Jonathan Vega stood on the bridge, his expression grim but determined. "All ships prepare for battle," he ordered, his voice carrying a sense of unwavering authority. "We will not surrender our home to these invaders. Today, we fight for the future of our species." The crew erupted into a chorus of battle cries, their spirits buoyed by Vega's words. As the two fleets drew closer, the air crackled with the tension of the impending clash. In the aftermath of the decisive victory over the Thraxan Imperium, the Terran Confederacy found itself faced with a new set of challenges. While the human forces had emerged triumphant, the cost of the battle had been high, and the repercussions of their actions would reverberate throughout the galaxy. Jonathan Vega, the hero of the conflict, stood at the forefront of the Confederacy's efforts to navigate this uncharted territory. As the leader of the human forces, he knew that the true test lay ahead, consolidating their newfound power and ensuring that the Thraxans, and any other alien civilizations that sought to challenge humanity's supremacy, would be deterred from future aggression. In the halls of the Terran government, debates raged on the best course of action. Some advocated a policy of cautious diplomacy, seeking to forge alliances and mend bridges with the other galactic powers. Others, emboldened by the victory over the Thraxans, pushed for a more aggressive approach, a bold assertion of human dominance that would leave no doubt as to the Confederacy's status as the preeminent power in the galaxy. Vega, ever the pragmatist, sought to find a middle ground. He recognized the importance of diplomacy and cooperation, but he also understood the need to project strength and resolve in the face of potential adversaries. "We must tread carefully," he told the assembled ministers and military leaders. "The Thraxans were but the first to feel the wrath of humanity. There are countless other civilizations out there, some of which may see our victory as a challenge to their own ambitions. We cannot afford to be complacent." The discussions were heated, with each faction vying for their vision of the Confederacy's future. But Vega's steady hand and unwavering leadership ultimately prevailed as he mapped out a comprehensive strategy that balanced diplomacy, military might, and economic cooperation. At the heart of Vega's plan was the concept of the Pax Humana, a new era of human-centric dominance in the galaxy, where the Terran Confederacy would serve as the guarantor of peace and prosperity for all who pledged their allegiance. It was a bold and ambitious vision, one that would require the full mobilization of the Confederacy's resources and the cooperation of its allies. As the blueprint for the Pax Humana took shape, the Terran military embarked on a massive expansion and modernization program. New fleets of warships equipped with the latest in weapons and propulsion systems were constructed at breakneck pace. Elite units of highly trained soldiers, drawn from the finest warrior cultures across the Confederacy, were assembled and deployed to key strategic locations. Simultaneously, Vega spearheaded a diplomatic offensive, reaching out to the other major powers in the galaxy. Some, like the Arcturan hegemony, were receptive to the idea of a Pax Humana, eager to secure the protection and economic benefits that such an alliance would bring. Others, like the enigmatic Crixian Empire, remained aloof and wary, their motivations and intentions shrouded in mystery. As the Confederacy's influence and reach expanded, a sense of unease began to spread through the galaxy. The other civilizations, long accustomed to the relative balance of power, now found themselves confronted with the specter of human supremacy. Whispers of resistance and even open rebellion began to circulate as the smaller powers sought to assert their own autonomy and resist the encroaching Pax Humana. Vega, ever the strategic thinker, anticipated these developments. He knew that the path to true dominance would not be an easy one, and that maintaining the fragile peace would require a delicate balance of diplomacy, economic incentives, and, if necessary, the threat of overwhelming military force. To this end, the Confederacy established a network of outposts and listening posts throughout the galaxy, their purpose to gather intelligence and monitor the activities of potential adversaries. Covert operatives were dispatched to infiltrate the power structures of rival civilizations, sowing discord and undermining their ability to mount a unified resistance. At the same time, Vega worked to strengthen the cultural and economic ties between the Terran Confederacy and its allies. Trade agreements, technology transfers, and cultural exchanges were all leveraged to bind the disparate factions into a cohesive whole, with humanity firmly at the center. The Pax Humana, as it came to be known, was a grand and ambitious undertaking, one that would test the limits of the Confederacy's resources and the resolve of its people. But Vega and his team were undaunted, driven by a vision of a future where humanity reigned supreme, its rightful place among the stars secure for generations to come. As the years passed, the Pax Humana began to take shape, its tendrils spreading throughout the galaxy. Trade and commerce flourished under the Confederacy's watchful eye, and the other civilizations, while still wary of human dominance, found themselves increasingly dependent on the stability and prosperity that the Pax Humana offered. Yet, beneath the surface, the seeds of discontent were taking root. The smaller powers, resentful of their diminished status and the perceived encroachment of human influence, began to organize in secret, plotting ways to undermine the Confederacy's hold on the galaxy. Vega, ever the vigilant guardian of the Pax Humana, was well aware of these rumblings. He knew that the true test of the Confederacy's power would come not from outright military confrontation, but from the ongoing battle for the hearts and minds of the people across the galaxy. To this end, the Confederacy embarked on a massive propaganda and cultural outreach campaign, extolling the virtues of the Pax Humana and the benefits of human dominance. Vega himself became a living embodiment of the Confederacy's values, his image and likeness appearing in media across the galaxy. His words and deeds lionized as the very embodiment of human greatness. Yet, even as the Pax Humana seemed to solidify its grip on the galaxy, cracks began to appear in the foundation. Reports of unrest, resistance, and even outright rebellion began to filter back to the Confederacy's intelligence network, painting a troubling picture of the growing discontent that simmered beneath the surface. Vega, ever the strategist, knew that he could not afford to be complacent. He convened his top advisors, mapping out contingency plans and deploying additional military forces to key strategic locations. The Confederacy, it seemed, was poised to enter a new phase of its ongoing struggle for dominance. As the tension mounted, the galaxy found itself on the precipice of a new conflict, one that would test the resolve and the very foundations of the Pax Humana. Vega, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, steeled himself for the challenges that lay ahead, determined to ensure that humanity's reign would never be challenged. In the heart of the Thraxan Imperium, a figure emerged from the shadows, its reptilian features twisted in a mask of determination. This was Crathnal, the disgraced former ambassador whose failed attempt to destroy the Terran Confederacy had set in motion the events that now threatened to tear the galaxy apart. Shunned by his own people and forced to go into hiding, Crathnal had spent the years since the defeat of the Thraxan invasion force meticulously planning his revenge. He had traveled the galaxy, forging alliances with other civilizations resentful of the Confederacy's growing influence, weaving a web of intrigue and subterfuge that would soon ensnare the vaunted human empire. Now, as the tensions within the Pax Humana reached a fever pitch, Crathnal saw his opportunity. He had learned from his previous mistakes, and this time he was determined to strike at the heart of the Confederacy, shattering the illusion of human dominance once and for all. Gathering his trusted lieutenants, Crathnal laid out his plan. "The time has come," he hissed, his claws clenching into fists. "To reclaim what is rightfully ours. The Thraxan Imperium will rise again, and the Terran Confederacy will be reduced to ashes." His cohorts murmured their assent, their eyes gleaming with a hunger for retribution. Crathnal's lips curled into a predatory smile as he surveyed the assembled group, his mind racing with the intricate details of his scheme. "We will strike at the heart of the Confederacy," he continued, his voice low and menacing. "We will sow chaos and discord, undermining their hold on the galaxy. And when the time is right, we will unleash our full might, crushing the humans and their pathetic allies once and for all." The insurgents erupted into a chorus of savage war cries, their tails lashing the air in anticipation. Crathnall raised a clawed hand, silencing them with a gesture. "But we must be patient, my friends. The Terrans are not to be underestimated. We must bide our time, gathering our strength and waiting for the perfect moment to strike." He turned to his second-in-command, a grizzled veteran named Tharkal. "Begin the preparations. I want every resource at our disposal mobilized for this operation. We will not fail, not this time." Tharkal nodded, his reptilian features set in a mask of grim determination. "It will be done, Crathnall. The humans will pay for their arrogance, and the Thraxan Imperium will rise again." With that, the insurgents dispersed, their minds buzzing with the excitement of the impending conflict. Crathnall stood alone, his eyes narrowed as he gazed out at the horizon, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "Soon," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Soon the galaxy will tremble once more at the might of the Thraxans." In the gleaming spires of the Terran Confederacy's capital, Jonathan Vega pored over the latest intelligence reports, his brow furrowed in concentration. The rumors of unrest and resistance had grown increasingly troubling, and he knew that the stability of the Pax Humana hung in the balance. "The situation is deteriorating," he said, his voice grave as he addressed his top advisors. "Our agents have uncovered evidence of a growing network of insurgent groups, all with the same goal: to undermine the Confederacy's authority and disrupt the Pax Humana." The assembled officials exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the revelation settling heavily upon them. "Who is behind this?" Vega continued, his eyes narrowing. "We cannot afford to let this threat fester. The Pax Humana is the foundation of our prosperity and security, and we cannot allow it to be compromised." One of the advisors, a seasoned military commander, spoke up. "Our intelligence suggests that the Thraxan Imperium is at the center of this conspiracy. They have been rallying the disgruntled elements of the galaxy, exploiting the growing resentment towards our dominance." Vega's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of the table. "Crathnall," he growled, the name laced with a barely contained fury. "That reptilian bastard has been biding his time, waiting for the chance to strike." The other officials murmured their agreement, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily upon them. Vega's gaze swept across the room, his expression hardening. "Gentlemen, the time has come to take decisive action. We will not allow the Thraxans or any other civilization to undermine the foundation of the Pax Humana. Prepare our forces for war. We will crush this insurgency before it can take root." The officials snapped to attention, their faces reflecting a newfound determination. They knew that the fate of the Confederacy, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested upon their shoulders. As Vega watched them depart, a sense of unease settled upon him. The Thraxans had once been a formidable foe, and he had no doubt that they would stop at nothing to reclaim their lost dominance. The battle ahead would be fierce, and the stakes could not be higher. "So be it," he murmured, his eyes narrowing. "We will meet this challenge head-on, and the Thraxans will learn the true meaning of human resolve." With that, Vega turned his attention back to the intelligence reports, his mind racing as he plotted the Confederacy's next move. The future of the Pax Humana hung in the balance, and he was determined to ensure that humanity's reign would never be challenged. The call to arms echoed through the Terran Confederacy as the mightiest military force in the known galaxy mobilized for the impending conflict. From the bustling shipyards of the orbital shipyards to the elite training facilities scattered across the colonies, a sense of grim determination permeated the ranks of the Confederacy's armed forces. Jonathan Vega, the architect of the Pax Humana, stood at the center of the preparations, his eyes narrowed as he oversaw the deployment of his forces. He knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that the very future of humanity's dominance in the galaxy hung in the balance. "The Thraxans have dared to challenge us once more," Vega's voice boomed, his words carried across the vast expanse of the Confederacy's military command center. "But this time, they will face the full wrath of the Terran Confederacy." The assembled officers and soldiers erupted into a deafening cheer, their spirits buoyed by their leader's unwavering resolve. Vega raised a hand, silencing the din with a gesture. "We will not be cowed by their threats, nor will we be intimidated by their bravado. We are the masters of the galaxy, and we will prove it once and for all." As the preparations continued, the Confederacy's intelligence network worked tirelessly to uncover the full extent of the Thraxan conspiracy. Covert operatives infiltrated the heart of the Imperium, gathering crucial intelligence on the insurgents' movements, their alliances, and their ultimate goals. What they uncovered was a chilling revelation. The Thraxans had been quietly amassing a formidable coalition of disgruntled alien civilizations, all united in their desire to break the Confederacy's grip on the galaxy. From the Crixian Empire to the reclusive Arcturan hegemony, a web of intrigue and subterfuge had been woven, with Crathnall and his fellow insurgents at the center of it all. Vega's jaw tightened as the reports reached his desk, his mind racing with the implications of this discovery. The Pax Humana, the very foundation of human dominance, was now under threat from a coordinated campaign of sabotage and subversion. "They seek to tear down everything we have built," Vega murmured, his voice laced with a mix of anger and determination. "But we will not surrender our rightful place in the galaxy without a fight." He summoned his top commanders, laying out the intelligence they had gathered and outlining a strategy to counter the growing insurgency. The plan was bold, ambitious, and above all, uncompromising. The Confederacy would strike at the heart of the Thraxan Imperium, crippling the insurgents' power base and sending a clear message to any who dared to challenge human supremacy. As the battle plans were finalized and the fleets of warships readied themselves for deployment, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. The Terran Confederacy was poised to embark on its greatest military campaign since the defeat of the Thraxans, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Vega stood on the bridge of the Confederacy's flagship, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, that the battles to come would test the very limits of human resilience and determination. But he also knew that failure was not an option. The Pax Humana, the vision of a galaxy united under the banner of human dominance, was too important to be sacrificed. And so, with a steely resolve, he gave the order to commence the offensive, unleashing the full might of the Terran Confederacy upon the forces that sought to undermine its authority. The galaxy trembled as the two mighty powers clashed, their weapons lighting up the void with brilliant flashes of destruction. The Thraxans, emboldened by their newfound alliances, fought with a desperate ferocity, their warships swarming the Terran fleets in a relentless assault. But the Confederacy was prepared, its forces moving with a precision and coordination that had been honed through countless battles. Vega's strategists had anticipated the Thraxans' tactics, and they were ready to counter them at every turn. The battle raged on for days, the vacuum of space echoing with the thunderous roar of weapons fire and the anguished cries of the dying. But slowly, inexorably, the Confederacy's forces began to gain the upper hand, their superior firepower and tactics slowly wearing down the Thraxan-led insurgency.